the constellations play a very important role in Night in the Woods. They're a major piece of the world building, as they're a focal point of the in-game religion and its mythology. And from a narrative perspective, they allude towards many of the major themes and events of the story. In this brand new series, we're going to examine each of the constellations, from the Dusk Stars to the 13 shown in Longest Night. On today's episode, we'll be kicking things off with Castys, the first of Mr. Chazakov's Dusk Stars. But before I go on, if you are a Night in the Woods fan, then please be sure to like, subscribe, and consider supporting me with a YouTube channel membership or over on Patreon. My dream is to make these videos full-time someday and create awesome Night in the Woods content for years to come. By doing any of those things, you'll be helping make that dream a reality. So what exactly is a Dusk Star? As described by Mr. Chazakov, they're wandering stars that only appear for a few weeks in the spring and the fall and are visible at dusk thanks to a trick of the atmosphere and the light of the setting sun. This, of course, is perfect for May, because she doesn't wake up until 4 o'clock in the afternoon anyway, right in time to climb up on her favorite teacher's roof and check out some Dusk Stars. The first Dusk Star that May and Mr. Chazakov find is Castys. She's depicted as an upside-down female fox with bubbles drifting from her open mouth, alluding to her final fate. According to legend, she built a tower to heaven. This infuriated the gods, who punished her by drowning her in the sea, where she refused to die. As a mythological figure, Castys is certainly pretty badass. I'm sure that she knew building a tower to heaven would piss off the gods, yet she did it anyway. And even when they took vengeance on her, she was undeterred, staying alive even as she sunk to the bottom of the sea. Looking at the legend as a whole, the story of Castys is a classic mythological tale about respecting the gods. Castys defied them, and she paid the price. Whether it's Greek mythology, Norse mythology, or modern scripture, there are countless stories just like this one in various creeds, faiths, and cultures. But in terms of specific in-universe themes, one thing that stands out to me is the vengeful nature of the gods in the Night in the Woods universe. Typically, when gods behave like this in legends, a significant amount of emphasis is placed on the behavior of the offending mortal, and how what the gods did was justified because of how greedy, vain, or cruel they were. Think of the stories of King Midas or Narcissus, both of whom are viewed as poster children for modern-day vices. Their stories are essentially fables, meant to instruct young people on how to properly behave. They did bad things, and thus the gods did bad things to them. But in the story of Castys, it's not so black and white. Obviously, building her tower to heaven was a violation of the natural order, but we're not told exactly why that is. This sets up the gods to look like complete dicks, and in contrast, the concluding detail about Castys refusing to die establishes her as a hero. Of course we're going to admire a woman who just keeps on living. That's freaking awesome! This, in a small way, echoes the themes of the game. May and her friends spend most of Night in the Woods defying authority. They resist the overall culture and grind of Possum Springs, and oppose the cult of the Black Goat, an obvious allegory for the conservative ideology of some Rust Belt communities. It's a theme that will come up with several of the other Dusk Stars, and I really like how they help drive home some of the game's core messages. Circling back to the nature of the gods, this story is yet another example of the negative way they're portrayed in the lore of the Night in the Woods universe. Whether it's the forest god, who is depicted as petty and vengeful, the sky cat, who has an uncaring deist mentality, or the black goat, who literally devours people, they're all established as downright terrible entities with little regard for human life. And again, this ties into the core themes. All authority figures, even divine authority figures, are failing at their roles. It's a bit tough to square this with the religion worshipped at the Church of the First Coalescence, which appears to be based on love and respect, but perhaps they're unrelated. That's a topic for another video, however, so stay tuned on that one. In terms of connections to the mythology and religion of our world, Castys' tower calls to mind the Tower of Babel. As described in the book of Genesis, the early humans came together as one, built a glorious city, and a tower that reached the sky. But God, noting the power of a unified mankind, confounds their speech so they can't understand each other, and scatters them across the globe. And as for Castys refusing to die, it reminds me of some of the tall tales about the death of Rasputin. The infamous and often theorized about Russian mystic and advisor to Tsar Nicholas II, Rasputin's death isn't nearly as dramatic as it's been made out to be. He was shot and killed by Russian nobles who feared his influence on the royal family. But there are stories that he survived everything from poisoned cakes to gunshot wounds, and finally needed to be thrown into the Malaya Nevka River with his arms bound in a straitjacket, much like Castys, where he refused to die until a heart attack finally claimed his life. Of course, none of this is true. Rasputin was a mortal man, despite theories to the contrary, but it doesn't stop people from believing it. In that respect, the conclusion of Castys' story reminds me of Rasputin's, but from a different perspective and context. Here, these qualities characterize her as a defiant badass, rather than the mysterious, villainous figure they make Rasputin out to be. That's all for Castys. Did you notice anything about them that I didn't? Be sure to let me know down in the comments. Next time, we'll be talking about a Dusk Star that you can see on the very same day. Doer the Murderer. Thanks for watching. Big thanks to my Night in the Woods collaborators Wolf.Godwin, Allan Naslund, and Jordi Jaen Moreno. To check out all 3 of these incredibly talented creators, just follow the links down below in the description box. Big shout out to all my Silver and Gold tier YouTube channel members and Patreon subscribers, including James Pruitt, Corey Madsen, Gustavo Balabi, Lil Caesar, Reed, Bathonian, Faith G, Anna Novikova, and Laura Parenti, who get early access to these videos thanks to donations of $5 to $10 a month. See you guys next time!